Hey guys, if you're still watching my videos, I appreciate it. This week it's going to be a bunch of random stuff. I didn't do a very good job of actually recording much of actually the work that I was doing, just because all these little things, they're really difficult to like video because I don't really know what I'm doing until like I'm working on it, and I'm like, if I video all of it, it's hours and hours and hours, and to go through and edit it all down to something that you would really like is, a pain. So I did show you what I kind of started with and what I ended up with, the parts that I got, what's installed on the car, etc., etc. Anyway, if you watch these, I appreciate it. I know they're not the best thing that you can watch on YouTube, but hopefully eventually this will help somebody. This is as much a journal of all the stuff that I've done as it is, trying to make something for somebody else or make it entertaining, because I know my personality isn't, the greatest thing ever. So anyway, if you watch this, great. And yeah, so anyway, what's going on, everybody? Back on the 2002. Haven't got any progress done the last couple weeks. Been sick, chest cold, and then went up into my face, and I just can't seem to knock it out. So, but we got to keep going. So we'll do some random stuff, I think, this weekend. New parts. I finally got the header from whatever the name of that place is. The place that I got the engine mounts and the guy that's making the harness and stuff for me. Classic Daily, yeah, that's it. So we might try to throw that in, make sure everything fits there. I got a new center link, drag link, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, I think if you remember, the threads kind of got jacked up when we had to knock it loose to get the trans in the engine and stuff in. I got a new center bearing for the drive shaft. I don't know whether I'm going to have to rebuild the drive shaft yet or not, but it at least needed a center bearing. I got a new throttle linkage piece, so I'll show you how that goes. I want to get that mounted, and then I need to order a throttle cable. I wanted to get that on there, figure out what the length I needed, and go from there. I did get the reservoir and stuff for the brake system. I'm going to need to make a bracket for that. I'll show you as that goes along. This is a fitting that I got for that. I had to order this from Chase Bays. I couldn't find fitting anywhere else that works on these plastic reservoirs. This has got like a fancy washer with a rubber seal on it. Anyway, I probably could have come up with something, but they had it, and so I just ordered one from them. So anyway, I'll stop rambling and we'll get back on this turd. See if we can make some progress. I'd like to get the stuff underneath done so that I can maybe set it back on the ground. I've needed to use the lift a couple times on other stuff, and I haven't been able to. So ideally, if I could get that drag link back on there, trim up the trans, maybe see if the drive shaft is right, figure out the linkage for the throttle. Anyway, maybe get some of that stuff knocked out so that I can set this thing back on the ground, make it easier to work on, and all those other things. So anyway, I'll bring you along, see if we can make some progress on this thing. Probably not, but we'll do something anyway, because what else do I do? Man, I got my butt whooped on this thing. Could not get this out from underneath the car. I couldn't get any leverage on these, and they were loose. These were loose on the car side, just there's no room under there to use your pickle fork and beat on with a hammer. So then I came out to the tie rod ends at the knuckle, and the one on the driver's side that I could get to was pretty loose. But of course, the one on the passenger side at the wall, where I have to basically like squish myself in there, it was tight. And of course, I split the boot on this pretty much brand new tie rod end. So now I gotta see if I can find maybe a new boot, or maybe I can find an end. But at least I can, now I can try to get this off of here, and then I can put it back on the new one, get it back under the car, and then deal with the tie rod ends at the knuckle later. So anyway, getting beat up here. We'll get it back together though, no problem. Been hammering on this thing for the last few minutes. This guy, sorry you can't see, and a hammer. Tried this little crappy air hammer that never works. I'm done. I'm just gonna buy new tie rod ends. You can buy them for like $4 on Rock Auto. So I've already split the boot, and I'm tired of beating on it. So I'm gonna order new tie rod ends, swap them over on this, and make that work. So actually, I need to make sure I get inners because they're different than the outers. But anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. I went through and chased all the threads, cleaned up the gasket surface, installed new studs. I'll go ahead and fit this header in, and then see where we're at. Look, I think it's gonna fit though. Looks like I get to spend the next 86 years tightening down all these nuts. I don't know why these studs are so long. I'd be tempted to cut them down, but that's too much work and take too long. So we'll see if I can get this squeezed down. But this header's got plenty of room, and it looks nice. It's gonna fit good in here. So anyway, I'll get it snugged up. We'll go from there. Several hours later, the header is installed. It just took a while to get all those nuts tightened down on those extra long studs, but it's done. I know this is hard to see anything. I still gotta remove some of this wiring. But anyway, it looks nice down in there for what you can see. So fits really well and should perform fine. There's a V-band obviously on the end, and I'll have to build the rest of the exhaust based on that, but should be fairly straightforward. I need to go back through the harness, and I don't know, this OBD1, if it's got, still has a pre and a post cat sensor. I'm assuming it would. I would have thought maybe this header would have had a bung in it. I'll have to go back and look at the factory header and see if there was a bung there, but anyway, we'll figure that out. Moving on to the drive shafts. This is the drive shaft that came out of the car. I'm assuming it's an original one. Someone has modified that with a bunch of washers up there, so I don't know if it had a different trans in it at some point, but pretty sure this is the original shaft because the center bearing and everything lines up where the factory one is. This is the drive shaft out of the E30, the parts car that we used. I spent way too much time fitting it up into the car to make sure that the length was correct. Everything down here is good. Everything up there fits the back of the trans. The length is correct. That might need at least some spray paint or something. And then the joints are notchy. So I gotta try to find somebody that either can replace those U-joints, or I need to try to find another newish something drive shaft. So, and then obviously this is the wrong location, but I think I got a plate from Classic Daily that remounts that. If not, I'll make something work there. That's not an issue. So yeah, so at least I know where we're at with the drive shaft, and I can work on figuring out how to get something that's a little better shape than this one. So we'll go from there, and once I come up with something, I'll let you know. This is the coolant temp sensor for this engine and ECU that goes in the radiator. But let's see if I can get you in here. You can see what's going on. Probably not. I'm not gonna be able to see anything because I suck at videoing. Here, let's try this. Here we go. Yeah, that's better. How about that? No bueno. Doesn't fit. So yeah, I hate to cut holes in this car, but I don't know what else to do. I need this sensor in here. I looked for like a 90 or something. This is a M14 by 1.5, and I can't find anything that anybody makes. Otherwise, I would do something like that. Ideally, like a 45, but again, nobody makes anything, so I think I'm just gonna notch a little hole here. That'll give us room for the sensor and the connector. So let's see what I can come up with here. I used a hole saw to give myself some clearance on that sensor and the connector, so I think that'll work. Like I say, I don't love it, but I don't know what else to do with the room that I had and the situation that we're in. So anyway, I'll clean the edges up and get them touched up, and we'll keep moving. Working on the brakes again. This is the new master I got. I drilled a hole in the end here. I gotta tighten this nut up, but I'm gonna found this random bracket. I'm gonna do something like this. Drill a couple holes in the fender roll area. Get that lined up. I don't know if you can see. That'll give me a straight shot for a short piece of hose for the clutch. So, let's see if I can get this mounted. This is where we're at with this little guy. Got fitting made up in the hose here. Got this little random bracket made up through the firewall and mounted here. And my drain hose here that goes to the reservoir on the master cylinder. So, yeah, I think that looks pretty decent for some scrap I had laying around. I still have to hook up the brake lines to the wheelwood. I have it mounted back here. I have the pin in here, but from experience, these boosters are super finicky as far as the rod wants a little bit of engagement or pressure at rest to turn this unit on. So unfortunately, I set it up to where there's about 1/16 or an 1/8 of a gap when this is all the way in, so that there's pressure on that rod pushing in. So what sucks is you don't really know if it's too much and it's pushing on the brakes until you get it all set up and bled, and then if the car doesn't move, then you have too much. And unfortunately with this plate, it's hard to adjust the nut that's on the end here. Maybe I'll be able to get to it from the underside, but I have a jam nut on there, so if I can get the jam nut loose, you can turn the rod and adjust the length of it. So anyway, that's all I got going on this evening, and we'll see if we can get some work done tomorrow. Have a good night. I took a piece of string, ran it all around all the pulleys, measured it, added 1 inch because I knew the tensioner was extended all the way, and then obviously the rope was down inside. So anyway, it was 76 3/4, and I got 78-inch belt. And when you know it, it fit. I don't think I've ever had a belt where I was correct the first time. It's usually like third, fourth time. So anyway, that's exciting. So yeah, I think we got a belt. I should be able to use the stock AC belt once I get that going. I'm not going to put the belt on until I get the lines and stuff figured out for that. But yeah, I got new pulleys here. So yeah, so I think that'll all work. This is all going to come back off anyway because the supercharger is not permanently mounted, but it's exciting that I've got the correct belt. This is the original heater hose, including the piece I cut here from the M42. I tried to make it work from here to here, but it was too long and it kinked back in here. Sorry, let me see if I can. There you go. That's better. So I just cut a section out of it. Basically this piece here. Just cut this out of here and put a barb fitting in there. So I'll clamp it here, clamp on both ends there, clamp there. Throw that away, and this is perfect. It doesn't touch anything. Should have enough room. And I think that will be the last piece of hose once I get this upper radiator hose figured out. I wish it was easy as just duct taping your hoses together. I don't think that would hold coolant very well. Got myself an upper radiator hose. It's at least 2 different hoses. I thought I was going to be able to come up with a single piece here and then piece it together here, but the hose that I got, that I found at the parts store the other day, that I ordered online, was only the right size on the end, so that didn't work. So I had other hoses. So I got 2 1 3/4 barbs, one here and one here. And then I bought these cool little Gates clamps. What do they call them? Super clamps or power grips. That's what they're called, power grips. I'm going to piece them together and use heat on them, and looks a lot better than some clamps, and I think they're going to work fine. I can't turn the hose within itself, so should work as good and look a lot better than a bunch of hose clamps. I may end up doing it. I bought an extra one. I may end up using one down here once I get the rest of the car together. They're one-time use, so if I do it here and then I have to take the hose off, then I have to cut it and buy another one. So I think I'll leave it for now, but eventually I might put another one here. I think I'll use a clamp down here though, because it'd be a pain to get to otherwise. But anyway, it's close to the pulley here, but it's not touching, so should be room for a belt in there. And yeah, I think I'm gonna leave that for now. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, but I don't see why it won't. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I think it looks okay, and that way I can keep moving. I'm working on this intake. I'll get back on the details on that later, but in my infinite wisdom, I'm like, I really hope that the hood fits with this radiator setup. Derek be not the brightest guy in the world. Didn't think about that. I'm like, oh yeah, like put the radiator in and it looks like there's plenty of room, but and at the way the hood is, and I'm like, oh no. So anyway, this is thread sealant. I didn't have any Play-Doh or anything else I could think of, so I put some of that on there, close the hood, and it's tight, but there's nothing there, so that's awesome. But yeah, I'll show you what I got going on with this once I figure out some sort of a solution. So anyway, back to it. Yep. I think I might be the world's slowest fabricator. Anyway, I made this bracket to hold the air mass meter. I know it's hard to see, but this is what I got. I still need a filter. There's going to be just enough room down there for a small filter. This is a factory elbow. This is a 90 that I had. I cut a piece of small stainless. This naturally fit inside of this boot, but there was, when you go to clamp it, there's obviously nothing to hold it together, so I cut a small piece of 2.5-inch stainless, fit that in there. I did the same thing down here. I know you can't see it, but there's a piece of stainless that's pushed inside of this cast elbow, so I'm either going to have to maybe get somebody to TIG that, just tack it in place. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but I don't really want this to pop loose because then you have an unmetered air leak, so, and it probably would run terrible. So anyway, this is an exhaust hanger that I had laying around. I took a little bushing that I had, welded a washer on the back side, welded a couple pieces on the side, and then welded it all together, and it holds this right where I need it. I did have to notch this here for the Willwood proportioning valve. But other than that, I think it's going to work. These bolts were a little too long, so I got these thick washers, so I'm either going to cut the bolts down or you have to find some different bolts. But anyway, I think that's going to work. It comes super close to the hood because of this guy here, but I mean, even if it rubs a little bit, I don't think it's going to hurt anything. It's just going to have to be what it's going to be. Initially, when I started working on this car, I thought I could somehow get the AFM to come like through here somewhere, but without hacking a bunch out of the car, you still don't have room for a filter. So I don't love that the filter's got to be all the way down there, but and all these elbows, but with this AFM, that's all you get. And I looked to see if there's an easy conversion to like an air mass meter, and there isn't. So we had to make that work. So anyway, that's gonna work for now. In an earlier video, I said I was going to try to buy new ends because I couldn't get these separated and I tore the boots. Can't buy this end. You can buy this end, which is the outer, but you can't buy the inner. So anyway, I had to get 2 new tie rod ends. And I got the new center link, so I'm going to go ahead and try to install those. I'm going to trim up that transmission, hopefully in the correct place this time, and I can get this reinstalled, so that I can get should be able to get the wheels back on and have the steering reattached. So yeah, that's what we're going to try to do now. Got new tie rods, center link installed. I got the transmission trimmed up. Everything clears, all the nuts tight, all the cotter keys installed. Yeah, so that's done. Happy to have that done. Keep going. This is the throttle cable that's going to match up to the pedal rod. It's going to go in here, but this hole is a lot bigger. And I don't want a bunch of slop, so I'm either going to try to find a bushing. I found this little, I don't even know what you want to call it, some sort of a little stopper bushing. It almost fits in this hole. I think I'll be able to press that in the hole. And then this almost fits down there, so I might try to drill this out a little bit. And then it's plenty wide for that. Cut it down and see what I come up with. This worked out. Cut that little bushing down, press the pin through there. I know you're not going to be able to see this very well. Let's see. Oh, come on. There you go. It's very little wiggle room. Oh, I won't stay in focus. I'm trying to get my feet. Come on, little guy. Hey there. Yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna lose focus again, but it's nice and tight. It's gonna work. Send it. This is my throttle cable finished up. I assume maybe this is the traction control, but the lever is longer and the stroke worked better for the pedal rod at the bottom. So Yeah, I've got a stop here, a screw-in stop, and then I crimped a fitting on the end just because it makes me a little bit nervous. I'll show you underneath. This is the gas pedal. This is the lever. My cable comes down. This is the bracket that I welded on. I was off of a... It's a lift point for an N62 or something. I don't know. I looked the part number up. I'll put it in the video maybe. Welded this to this bracket here. The hole was too big, so I welded a nut on the top side, and we now have a gas pedal. It works. So that's exciting. Anyway, that's like a 2-hour project that probably shouldn't have taken that long, but when you're Derek, that's what happens. So anyway, hopefully it stays together. But yeah, it's it actuates the whole pedal, all but just the very little bit at the bottom. The pedal could go down a little bit further, but that'll work. So anyway, on to the next. Look what we got here. Whoppa, whoppa, whoppa. Or should it be whoops, whoops? Anyway, I know I'm dumb.